Hello, everyone.
Shalom,
Hello,
Rav.
everyone. How's it? How are you? How are you, Dr. Liz?
Good. How are you, Rav? How are you?
Shem, Baruch Shem, tell us what's news in Eretz HaKodesh.
Hey, so much is happening. You know, we now developed relations with Bhutan. Bhutan
Really?
is that's a in the Himalayas. It's a Buddhist country in north of India, and we've developed relations with them. And there's a very good chance that there's going to be relations with Indonesia. So it's actually quite amazing.
Indonesia, it's a Muslim
there's a good
country.
chance. Yeah, it's the biggest Muslim country in the world. I was there twice, in Jakarta and Bandung, but it's actually quite unbelievable. And so the restrictions have been kind of left. You know, I was in downtown Yerushalayim and it's bustling now. People are excited getting the last day of Hanukkah, getting Lachmaniyot, everything, and it's wonderful. And life is back to normal in a way. And what's interesting is that they imported 100,000 Pfizer Corona vaccines, and Motzei Shabbos, the Prime Minister is going to be vaccinated, and on Yom Rishon, the President Rivlin is going to be vaccinated, and then hopefully we all will get the vaccine.
No, Baruch Hashem.
So they by example, they're taking the first vaccine. So it's wonderful.
They take everything by example, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, Chodesh Tov, Rav, and Shabbat Shalom, and Chanukah Sameach.
I would like to take the opportunity, guys, just to mention something. Dr. Leah sent me today that he got, you remember we done a show about the righteous of the world, Dr. Sugihara. And Dr. Liz received a letter from the foundation of Sugihara.
It's his children.
Sorry?
It was from his family. It's from his family, Sugihara's family.
Yeah. So he got a letter from family that mention and what's happening. Thank you.
I decided to invite and you all accepted at the same time. So we're all together, but I'm going to take you up with separate presentations.
There's a lot of noise. Sorry about that. I don't know where it come. But Les, Isher Koach, thank you very much for all what you do. A great, great, great honor. Les, Dr. Les, Isher Koach, once again. Rabotai, we're going to start the shiur. I know that I got few messages. I'm going to mute everyone. I just wanted to say that that I know that in Eglan Hazel there's a bit of a problem. Some member of the shiur phoned me and told me that they have a problem with the connection in the internet. So therefore, I see that the number is very small, but let's hope that they will come in a show. So let's start in Parashat Miketz. בעזרת השם נעשה ונצליח, והשם עלינו ברחמיו ירוויח. השיעור יהיה לרפואת מנשה נג'י בן פרחה, ליאורה בת מרים, הרב אברהם בן מרינה, הרב שלמה יהודה בן דליה, גולדה איטול בת שולמית לאה, בת אל בת ליאורה, דבורה בת אסתר, and who else? Hefchiba Hannah bat Sarah Imenu. Please God, רפואה שלמה. Today is the 8th day of Hanukkah. That's called Zota Hanukkah. And there is a special segula, a remedy, that on this day is the highest day of Hanukkah. And today, tonight, and tomorrow, when people ask and daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there is a good chance that they will receive what they asking. So Zota Hanukkah, Rabotai, focus on that day, and Be'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will answer all your wishes. So let's start with Parashat Miketz, and let's see what the Torah teaches. So first of all, we have to understand, I'm going to do the introduction like we usually do. I'm just grabbing my Chumash here, that in the year 2229 for the creation, Yosef HaTzadik was in the age of 30, and he'd been released from jail, from the pit, after 12 years. In the same years, he married his wife Osnat. Who was Osnat? The Torah tells us that it's Osnat bat Potiphera. Osnat bat Potiphera, in matter of fact, she wasn't the daughter of Potiphera. Osnat arrived also to Egypt because the brothers didn't want the daughter of Dinah. Osnat was the daughter of Dinah, and they decided to send her away, and instead of, they wanted to kill her originally, but Yosef HaTzadik wrote her emelet and he left it on her neck. And she arrived in Egypt. And how did she marry actually Yosef? It's amazing, because Yosef ran away from immorality. And here we see something extraordinary. Sorry, my phone almost fell off. That he married, it sounds like he married Egyptian girl. Not at all. What happened? When Yosef been appointed a king on the same year that he been released from the pit, when I say a king, vice to the king, in the year 2229, they put him on his chariot, on one of the wagon. You know, in all the days they didn't have a car, so they have a wagon. And he was sitting on a wagon, and while he was crossing, he saw an emelet, like a letter being thrown into his chariot through the window. And Yosef HaTzadik picked up that letter, and he saw that inside it said that it's the descendants of Yosef HaTzadik. Immediately he ordered the guy that driving the chariot to stop it. And he asked, who threw that? And Osnat told him that she threw it, and she was in the age of 22 while he was in the age of 30. And that's when he married Osnat. That's how brought them together to marry Osnat. In the same year start the year of plenty. That means those 7 years of plenty started when? Now, in the year 2229 for the creation. In the year 2231 for the creation, the first son of Yosef and Osnat born, and that was Menashe, and he was the firstborn. 2 years later, in the year 2233 for the creation, the second son born to Yosef and Osnat, and that was Ephraim. Remember, so Yosef here have two children, Menashe and Ephraim. In the year 2236 for the creation, in Rosh Hashanah. In Rosh Hashanah started the 7 years of famine. Although those 7 years weren't one long 7 years, it was for 2 years, and then it stopped because Yaakov Avinu came down to Egypt. And when Yaakov Avinu came down to Egypt, the year of famine stopped until he died. And then the rest of the 5 years started again. In the year 2237 for the creation, here we see something extraordinary in the Parsha. Yosef HaTzadik met his brother for the first time since they sold him, and that was 20 years later. Work it out how. Yosef HaTzadik was in the age of, Rabota, in the age of 17 when he sold. When he been sold to the Ishmaelite and then to the Midianite. And then he been sold to who? To Potiphar. He became a slave for Potiphar. He was there for 1 full year until the story with the wife of Potiphar. And then he been sent to the pit for 12 years. In total, 13 years so far. Another 7 years until he married Osnat, until he had the kids, and only the brothers revealed he met his brother for the first time in 2237 237. At the beginning, Yosef HaTzadik does not reveal himself to the brothers. There is a reason for it. We'll speak about it, Be'ezrat Hashem, if we'll have time. If not this week, next week, Parsha Be'ezrat Hashem. But they didn't recognize him. Yosef HaTzadik in the same year, in 2237, after seeing that his brothers actually suffering, he revealed himself to the brothers and telling him, because he couldn't keep it anymore, he revealed himself to his brother and telling them that Yosef, he's the little brother that they sold, because until then, when they sold him, he was considered as the Lameki. That's introduction to the Parsha. So as I mentioned, there is a problem with the internet, and Mark told me that he doesn't have connection. So therefore, I'm going to read in Hebrew, and I'm going to try to translate it word by word. And it starts like this: Vayehi Miketz shnatayim yamim vePar'o holem halom v'hineh omed al hayaor. It was in the end of 2 years. Okay, the end of 2 years, and Pharaoh having a dream, and he's standing on the Yaor. Yaor is the Nile. Yaor, it's also called a Nile in English. So basically, after 2 years, we have to understand, we'll explain word by word, please God, Pharaoh having a dream that he's standing on the Nile. We have to understand, and many of the Mefarshim first of all ask, and we spoke about it certain time, that the word Vayehi, we're starting with the first word of the Parsha, Vayehi. Hazal tell us in a Gemara in Masechet Megillah, in page 10, folio 2, Hazal tell us wherever the word Vayehi mentioned, it's referring to pain, sorrow, agony, like it says Vayehi b'yimei Achashverosh. We know that the word Vayehi referring to pain and agony. And many of the Mefarshim ask, what's happening here? What pain and agony? As a matter of fact, you're talking. And this Parsha, we learn that, as a matter of fact, Yosef HaTzadik, after 12 years, that's sitting in a pit, in a jail, been released. Not only that he's released, he become vice to the king. So what pain and agony and sorrow you are referring to? Many of the Mefarshim ask that question. And it's a very, very good question. What pain and sorrow, a matter of fact, you are talking about? We see from here that there is a different scenario. It's not just the releasing from jails and the happiness. We have to understand what's happening here. So I'm going to bring the commentary of Rabbi Haim ben Attar. Rabbi Haim ben Attar, born in the city of Sali 324 years ago in Morocco. And he wrote commentary on the Torah, and it's called Or HaHaim HaKadosh. That's the name, Or HaHaim. There is a book, Or HaHaim, and it's a commentary on all the 5 books, all the 5 books of Moses. And that's called Or HaHaim. And in his commentary, he explained why the word Vayehi referring to Tsar. Because we asked the question, wait, Yosef HaTzadik been released from jail. He became vice to the king, vice to Pharaoh. He married, he have children. So how can it be sorrow and agony? Say Rabbi Haim ben Attar, you have to focus on a long run. He said that now, a matter of fact, starting the exile, from this moment that Yosef become famous and the vice to the king, now it's starting the galut. What it means, the galut? The exile of the Jewish people. And why? Because we know that the 10 tribes, when they left to go to Egypt, they're going to break the famine. The plan wasn't to stay there. But when Yosef HaTzadik revealed himself to the brothers, and later on the return to Eretz Israel to tell Yaakov Avinu, their father, that Yosef is still alive and he lives in Egypt, and he's devised to the king, Yaakov Avinu, with all the members of his family, ב-70 נפש, ירדו בני ישראל מצרימה. That means the entire Jewish people gone down to Egypt. You know why? Because Yosef was there. And they settled there as long that they have to stay there. We explain, and we'll see why. So say Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, now actually, a matter of fact, now starting the exile of the Bnei Israel. Also, Chazal explain, you know why is it say Vayehi milshon tsar, like Vayehi b'yimei Achashverosh also was pain and agony? It said now started the 2 years of famine until Yaakov Avinu coming up going down to Eretz Mitzrayim, to the land of Mitzrayim, was famine in Mitzrayim. Only when Yaakov Avinu entered Mitzrayim, the famine stopped in honor of Yaakov Avinu. So that's the second reason. The third reason is that Yosef HaTzadik needed to sit extra 2 years in a pit because he relied on a human being. We'll speak about it just now. So we see that the first word of Vayehi referring to pain and agony. Then it says Miketz, Shnatayim Yamim, in the end of 2 years. What's happened here in the end of 2 years? And I saw a commentary of Marav Me'amishinov. Marav Me'amishinov, a matter of fact, it's Rabbi Menachem Kalish. Rabbi Menachem Kalish born 160 years ago in Poland, around 160 years. And he asked the question, we have to understand, how come that Yosef HaTzadik have to sit extra 2 years in a pit? What caused Yosef HaTzadik to sit in a pit for extra 2 years? So Maharam Mikalish explained, Rabbi Menachem Mikalish explained, Maharam Me'amishinov, sorry, Rabbi Menachem Kalish explained like this. And he said that the reason that Yosef HaTzadik have to sit extra 2 years in jail because he asked the ministry of drink. What did he ask him? He asked him to remember him and to remind him to Paro. That means that Yosef HaTzadik asked Sarah Mashkim. By the way, you know who was Sarah Mashkim? What was his name? So today I saw, funny enough, just before I gone to daven Minha, I have a half an hour, and I decided, you know what, I need to look. And I gone through my sources, and I saw in a book, Yagel Levy, that there he brought something extraordinary. And he bring it in the name of Sefer Yashar HaKadmon. He bring that the name of Sarah Mashkim is the ministry of drink, in the book Sefer Yashar HaKadmon in page 182, he explained that his name was Mirod. Remember the name Mirod. We have Nimrod. You remember Nimrod? That was Amraphel that threw Avraham Avinu into the fire. That's with Nun. Here it's with Mem Mirod. If anyone will ask you what was the name of the minister of drink, remember Mirod. And he explained that when he put his trust in a human being, he suddenly realized that something wrong. And immediately he davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring or will make a miracle that the Sarah Mashkim, the minister of drink, will forget him. And he will forget him for 2 years. And we'll see now. Another commentary, why Dafka 2 years? Extra in a pit. I saw a commentary of Rabbi Yosef Dov Halevi Soloveitchik. Rabbi Yosef Dov Halevi Soloveitchik, born around 200 years ago in a city of Belarus. And he wrote in his book, Bet Levy. He wrote the name of his book, Bet Levy, the house of the Levy. He explained that in the moment that Yosef HaTzadik realized that he put his trust in a human being and not in God. And a matter of fact, his bitachon, that means his comfort in HaKadosh Baruch Hu dropped down. He davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he asked for every word that he asked Sarah Mashkim, that he said to him, Zechartani v'izkartani, 2 words. He said for every word, he asked about HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he will sit extra years in jail. And that's why he said 2 years. Because 2 words that he said to Sarah Mashkim, he asked specifically to sit extra 2 years in the pit. Another explain what happened. Why 2 years? So I saw that commentary, and that commentary I have to explain that is something that brought, and I saw it, that in the name of Rabbi Avraham ben Arambam. Rabbi Avraham ben Arambam, I saw it that he bring it also. And the explanation like this. As a matter of fact, Sarah Mashkim every morning said to himself, I need to remind Pharaoh about Yosef HaTzadik, because he interpreted my dream. And he can interpret the dream for Pharaoh. But what happened? Hazal explained that from Shamayim, the minister of drink, when he arrived to the house of Pharaoh to do his job, he was so busy that he forgot. One thing led to another that he forgot. And for 2 years, every morning when he used to go to his job, he said, I must remind Pharaoh about it. And as he entered the house, he forgot. So that will explain how. How do we know that? That will explain what the Marav Me'amishinov, Rabbi Menachem Kalish, explained that Yosef HaTzadik davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Mirod, the minister of drink, will forget who? Yosef HaTzadik. That he davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But I saw another beautiful idea, and that's from the mystical rabbi. That's what we call it, the Sod, Chachmei HaSod. And Chachmei HaSod explained that the word Miketz means the end. What it means, the end, we have to understand. So they say, if you take the word Ketz, gematria of Ketz, Kuf is 100. Tzadik, it's 90. Together is 190. The gematria of Ketz is 190. The mystical rabbi explained that Yosef HaTzadik saw in his Ruach HaKodesh something extraordinary. He knew that Avraham Avinu been told that the Jewish people will go in, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham Avinu in Brit Bet HaBetarim that the Jewish people will be in slavery for 400 years. Yosef HaTzadik knew in his Holy Spirit for those 2 years that he will sit in jail, that will take 190 years from the Jewish people from slavery. And he said, I'd rather sit in jail for extra 2 years as long that the Jewish people will be deduct 190 years of slavery of them. If you look, that will explain why the Jewish people was in slavery 210 years. What is it? Because Yosef HaTzadik, for every year that he sits, Rabotai, that took 95 years. Together is 190 years for 2 years that Yosef HaTzadik sat in jail. Now we can understand why it says, Vayehi Miketz Shnatayim Yamim. 2 years. Another explanation, what it means, Miketz Shnatayim Yamim. We say that the word Miketz is the end. We have to understand, Chachmei Musar explained to us something extraordinary, that sometimes people try to push themselves and do things and try to hurry up their luck. and do things and then try to monopolize and try to do. Here the Torah come and teach us the Chachmei Musar, nothing going to help you. Vayehi Miketz. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu will decide that that's going to be the end for all your tzoros, the end of your problem, that's when it's going to happen. Nothing else going to change. Miketz means the end. Everything in the end of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nachon, that the person should do ishtadlut, to daven, because Hazal explained to us, tzedakah, kol, tzedakah, that means giving tzedakah, davening, that can change the roa gzera. That's me. A person obligated to do ishtadlut, but not to go mad, not to go overboard. People should not go over battle. And that's what it means, Miketz Shnatayim Yamim. Miketz Shnatayim Yamim come to tell you that you need to do ishtadlut, you must do ishtadlut. Each one of us have to do ishtadlut atzmit, to try. Yes, we obligate to try, but not to go overboard. Because when things supposed to be yours, they will be yours. And if it's not supposed to be yours, they will never be yours. And that's what the word Miketz starts to teach us in the end. Let's move on to verse 4. And in verse 4, the Torah tells us something extraordinary. And a matter of fact, we know that Hag HaNukah always fall usually in Parashat Miketz, or this year it's fall mainly on Parashat Vayeshev, but usually it's fall on Parashat Miketz and Vayeshev, these two parashiot. And we have to see where is the hint on Parashat Miketz to Hanukkah. So we have to understand what's happening here. It's well known that there is a hint in the Torah, and that's what we're doing in our shiur of Parashat HaShavua. We're learning the Pardes. The Pardes, it's Pshat, Remesh, that it's hint, Drash, Drashot, and Sod is the mystical behind it. And I'm trying in every shiur to bring the complete explanation of all of these four, to explain the Drash, Remez, all the Pardes, Pshat, Remez, Drash, Sod, all of it. So now we see where's the hint for Hanukkah from our Parshat HaShavua. And let's see what it says in this verse 4. And from here, our sages explain that you can learn about Hanukkah. And it says like this, ותאכלנה הפרות הרעות המראה, רעות המראה, ודקות הבשר, את שבע הפרות יפות המראה, והבריות, ויקץ פרעה. Here the Torah tells us that the skinny cow and the bad-looking cow, okay, a matter of fact, they eaten the fat cow, the looking cow, that means the healthy cow, and Pharaoh wake up. Our sages explain that here there is a hint to us that referring to Hanukkah. And they say, how do we learn that? So Rabotai, every morning we adding up in Tfilat HaAmidah, and whenever we say Birkat Hamazon, what are we adding up extra? Ala Nisim, Ve'ala Niflo. There, what do we say? And part of it, it says, Masarta Giborim Beyat Halashim. That means that you've given strong people in the hand of weak people. And that's what the hint here. Here the Torah tells us that the weak cows eaten the strong cow, the healthy cow. Say our sages, from here you learn that there is a hint to Hanukkah. Because in Hanukkah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu make a miracle, that the Hashmonaim, that they was weak. They didn't have any knowledge of weapon. They didn't have any knowledge of fighting. They didn't go into any academy of war, any academy to learn tactics. 17 people, that's how the coup started. Remember we explained, took over the great empire of the world, the Greek Empire. That the Greek Empire was almost in control of the entire world. Imagine 70 people will declare a war against United States of America, one of the biggest empire today. It doesn't make sense. People will laugh on them. And here, so say from that you see that the weak and the bad-looking cow eaten the healthy cow, the good-looking cow, that's come to tell you the miracle that happened to the Jewish people. What was the miracle that happened to the Jewish people in the time of the Hashmonaim? That the weak Jewish people, the one that didn't have any knowledge of war, HaKadosh Baruch Hu make a miracle for them, what? To overcome the great empire of the Greek. And that's what it's hinting in this verse. So from here we see that there is a hint to Hanukkah in our parasha, Parashat Miketz. Let's move on now to verse 9. And in verse 9, it says something very extraordinary. Listen what it says. וידבר שר המשקים את פרעה לאמור, את חטאי אני מזכיר היום. Here we see that the minister of drink, Mirod, I mention his name, saying to Pharaoh, I'm mentioning my sins in plural. Today I'm mentioning my sins. And immediately the Mefarshim ask, what's happening in this verse? וידבר שר המשקים. Suddenly the minister of drink decided to speak. What, until now he couldn't speak? So I saw a commentary that Hazal bring in, and it's something extraordinary. Hazal said that Sar HaMashkim didn't open his mouth. Why? Because we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't allow him. So what make him in the last minute to start talking? Obviously it's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but if we're talking about the pshat of the dvarim, when for 2 years, Hazal explained to us, and we'll see just now, that Pharaoh was dreaming the same dream. We'll bring a source to it just now. But what's happened there? Pharaoh was having a dream. And because no one can interpret his dream, he's actually starting to get worried. And Hazal tell us when a person gets worried, he gets sick. And the condition of Pharaoh starting to get to deteriorate, and he almost died. When Mirod, the minister of drink, saw that, he decided suddenly to say to Pharaoh and to mention Yosef HaTzadik. Suddenly he opened his mouth. And many of the Mefarshim say, well, what's happening here? Why did Mirod, the minister of drink, suddenly waken up? What make him decide suddenly to start talking? Why is he talking? So I saw a commentary that the Mefarshim bring extraordinary idea. And they say like this. They say it was a law in Egypt. And the law was like this. If the king die, those ministers that serving underneath this king gonna be fired, and a new king, when he come, he have to choose a new minister. And the minister of drink say, I have a parnasa, I have a job, I'm very well in the house of Pharaoh, I'm the minister of drink, where will I get a job like this? He said that if now Pharaoh gonna die, will come a different king. And if a different king come, I'm gonna lose my livelihood. I'm not gonna have a job. Therefore, said the Mefarshim, that Sar HaMashkim suddenly decide to speak to Pharaoh, to give his advice. But later on it say, Et hata'ai ani maskir hayom. My sins in plural are reminded today. We have to understand what sins. We know that the first sin that the minister of drink done, he didn't actually done it. That what happened when he brought the glass of wine to Pharaoh, they found a fly inside. Okay, that was his sin. Wasn't his, but Hazal explained to us there is a secret here. No. That wasn't the only sin. When the minister of drink said, "Et hata'ai ani maskir hayom," in plural, there is something more to it. Not only the fly, it was another sin. And Hazal explained that Mirod, that was the minister of drink, have a relationship with Pharaoh's daughter. And when Pharaoh heard about it, he was very cross. And Hazal said that the daughter of Pharaoh seduced the minister of drink and the minister of baking. So the main reason that he hanged the minister of drink, the minister of baking, because he himself, he wanted to have a physical relationship with Pharaoh's daughter. What Mirod tried to avoid it, but in the end he couldn't stand against his evil inclination, and it happened, whatever happened between them. But the minister of baking, he actually tried to promote it, that he suddenly may be going to marry her. He have all of different. But he tried to seduce her originally. And that's what happened. And that's why Pharaoh hanged him. Because Pharaoh knew that these two ministers have a physical relationship with his daughter. And that's what it said, Hatayani Maskir. I'm mentioning my sin. What sin? Number one, the fly. And the second sin, that he have something with Pharaoh's daughter. So now, how do we know that it's really happened? Hazal said like this. Look what it says. Where did Yosef HaTzadik sit in a jail? Hazal said that he'd been sent to a jail, Anshe HaMelech, Yodai HaMelech. What it means? That the people that know the king. What it means, people that know the king? It was a special jail that all of those that done something wrong, that was in a minister house, sorry, I need to drink something. Those that was in a parliament, those that was in a house of Pharaoh, that crossed to Pharaoh, and they done something wrong, whatever it was. And why did they put them dafka there? The Hazal explained that if they would put the minister of baking and the minister of drink in a public jail, everyone will hear what they there. And the entire Egypt will know that what's happened with the daughter of Pharaoh, and Pharaoh tried to avoid it. So what is he done? He have a special jail, and that's still today for those people that what we call the white collar, those that have a lot of connection, and they put it separately in a separate side.
Political prisoners.
Sorry?
I say political prisoners.
Political prisoners, Stephen. So they used to put them there. We still have it today. So what happened? Pharaoh put Sarah Mashkim, that's the minister of drink, and the minister of baking there. Why? Not to get embarrassed by that what his daughter done. That means to avoid the embarrassment, you have a special jail. And that's why you put them there. And that's proof to us that Sarah Mashkim and Sarah Ofim, that means the minister of drink and the minister of baking, done something wrong, and they have whatever they have with his daughter. And not to publicize it, he put them in a special jail. So that's why it says in plural, et hata'ai ani maskir. Now we can understand why the minister of drink say he sins in plural and not one sin. Because what was his sin? That he didn't took the fly from the glass of the wine. Lechora. That's on a pshat of the dvarim. But it wasn't that. Now we can understand which sin he done. Let's move on to verse 17. In verse 17, here we see something extraordinary. What does it say here? Listen what it says. וידבר פרעה אל יוסף. בחלומי הנני עומד על שפת היאור. Here it said that Pharaoh speak to Yosef HaTzadik and he tell him the dream. In my dream, Pharaoh said to Yosef, I'm standing on the bank of the Nile. Okay, what's happening here? So I saw a beautiful commentary that brought in a book that called Margenita de Rabbi Meir. That book been written by Rabbi Meir Mipir Mishlan. Rabbi Meir Mipir Mishlan, born around 237 years ago in a city of Per Mishlan, that's in the province of Lvov in Ukraine. That means the Per Mishlan, it's one part, it's like a city and a province of Lvov in Ukraine. And in his book, Margenita de Rabbi Meir, he explains something extraordinary. Here, Pharaoh saying to Yosef HaTzadik, I'm standing on a bank of the Nile. But that's not what it said at the beginning. At the beginning, it said that Pharaoh dreaming that he's standing on a Nile. And Yosef HaTzadik come and correct Paro, Hazal say Rabbi Meir Mipir Mishlan. He came to Pharaoh and he said, that's not what you dreamed. What you dreamed, that you stood on a Nile himself, not on a bank of the Nile. You stood on, in your dream, you stood on a Nile. So say Rabbi Meir Mipir Mishlan, number one, here Pharaoh knew immediately that he's dealing with someone that can interpret his dream, not like his advisor, all of his sorcerers, all of his advisors, that giving him all different ideas, that he'll have 7 daughters and those 7 daughters will die. And you know that Sheva Parot Tovot, Sheva Parot Ra'ot, 7 daughters good, 7 daughters bad, all of this. And he didn't accept all the interpretation. When did he accept the interpretation? When he suddenly realized that in front of him standing a holy man. And that holy man telling him, no. In your dream, you didn't stood on a Nile, on a bank of the Nile. You stood on a Nile. That's what you saw in your dream. So what happened? When he saw that, he suddenly realized that there's a holy man in front of him, and that's the man that, a matter of fact, that's going to interpret his real dream. That's one explanation, one idea. And that's the idea of Rabbi Meir Mipir Mishlan. I saw another beautiful idea to teach us Musar. That from this verse, we can learn Musar. That Hazal say, how come Pharaoh changed his dream? Why didn't say that he's standing on a Nile, on a bank of the Nile? Why does he have to say that he's standing on a bank of the Nile instead of saying on the Nile? What difference does it make? So I saw a commentary in Midrash Shmuel. Midrash Shmuel, it's a beautiful book that's been written by Rabbi Shmuel de Ozida. Rabbi Shmuel de Ozida, born 475 years ago in a city of Tzfat in Eretz Israel, and he was one of the first students of Ari HaKadosh, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi. But he was a great Kabbalistic. That was in a golden era, in the 16th century, they all lived. Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi, born 486 years ago in Tzfat also. So he born in Jerusalem 486 years ago. And then he moved to Tzfat. Later on, he moved to Egypt after his father died. And later on, he saw in the Holy Spirit that they're calling him to come to Eretz Israel. He lived to the age of 38 years old. That's all what he lived, the Ari HaKadosh. And all the Kabbalistic, all the mystical And the Kabbalah that we have today, it was from him. So his student, Rabbi Shmuel de Uzida, in his book Midrash Shmuel, explains something extraordinary. Listen what he explained. He explained that we all know that the Egyptian, one of their god, who was one of their god? The Nile. They all used to worship the Nile. And he said like this. He said that, a matter of fact, Pharaoh was embarrassed to say that he's standing on his God, because it's not nice to say that. How can I say that I'm standing on the top of my God? So what instead he said? I'm standing on a bank of the river. Say Rabbi Shmuel de Uzida, you can learn from here a great Musar. What is the Musar? He said, if an idol worshipper that know that his God is Buba Mises, and he speak with such respect and honor and fear of his God, how much we as Jewish people that worshiping the King of Kings, Melech Malchei Amlachim, God, how much we have to have respect when we go into Bet HaKnesset, the house of God, or when we're speaking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how much we should have respect, how much we can learn how to respect HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the house of God, and not to speak in the house of God, and not to have a faribul in the house of God, and I don't want to add up. We all understand. That's the Musa that Rabbi Shmuel de Uzida learned from here. We learn something extraordinary. What do we learn? That from that titze b'halomi hineni omed al sfat hayor, that I'm standing on the bank of the river to teach us how much we should respect the house of God. Let's move on, with your permission, to verse 55. I'm skipping quite a bit. In chapter, where is it? Chapter 55. Where is it? I'm just trying to find it because I see it was a bit of wind and it's pushed the pages away. I'm almost there, 55. Okay. And in verse 55, it says something like this. ותרעב כל ארץ מצרים, ויזעק העם אל פרעה ללחם. ויאמר פרעה לכל המצרים, לכו אל יוסף, אשר יאמר לכם תעשו. What does it mean? In this verse, the entire Egyptian people starved for bread. And they all came to Pharaoh. And they said to Pharaoh, listen, we're starving, we want food. What is Pharaoh answer them? Go to Yosef. He's my vice. And whatever he tell you, you must do. Okay? If you look at Rashi, that wrote commentary, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki, he born 980 years ago in the north of France, in the city of Troyes. And there, he says something extraordinary. Listen what Rashi say. Rashi say, לפי שהיה אומר להם שימולו. Rashi say that Yosef HaTzadik said to him, you want me to give you food? You want me to give you bread? You want me to give you wheat? You want me to give you grain? Circumcise yourself. And immediately all the Mefarshim ask, we don't understand. Why did Yosef HaTzadik have to ask the Egyptian to circumcise? They're not Jewish. And a Jew doesn't have any obligation, okay, any obligation to get circumcised. Where is it say? They have the 7 law of Noah, but they're not obligated to get circumcision. So I'm going to bring 2 different ideas. The first commentary that I'm going to bring is the commentary of the Kli Yakar. The Kli Yakar is Rabbi Shlomo Ephraim Lontwich. Lontwich, it was in Poland, and he born 480 years ago, almost 480 years ago. And in his commentary, the Kli Yakar, he explained that Yosef HaTzadik tried to explain to us what Hazal tell us. We know that Egypt was Ervat Haaretz. What it means, Ervat Haaretz, Hazal explained, that there was full of immorality. That means that they were so involved with immorality that we don't understand. And Yosef told them, listen, by that you should circumcise yourself, you should keep immorality. That means that one of the job of the Jewish people, by that we have in Brit, is to remind us that we're a holy nation. And Yosef HaTzadik tried to tell the Egyptian, you know why you have famine? Because Hazal tell us people that involved with immorality become poor. They can be the richest people, but Has v'shalom, if they're involved with immorality, that can lead them to poverty. So here Yosef HaTzadik tried to explain to the Egyptian, you know what caused you to reach to famine? Because you're involved with immorality. That's, remember, the Kli Yakar. Another explanation that I saw, that Yosef asked him to circumcise, that on Pshat of the Dvarim, very simple. Yosef HaTzadik wanted to see who's really starving. And a person that's starving and he have nothing to eat will do anything to keep his life, to keep himself alive. So those that will be willing to circumcise themselves, they will do circumcision as long as they have something to eat and they keep themselves alive. That's on the Pshat of the Dvarim. There's other idea that Yosef HaTzadik was Yesod. What it mean, Yesod? Yesod, it means that Yosef HaTzadik was so holy that he couldn't see people that not circumcised. And he was so disgusted by them, Hazal say, that if person wasn't circumcised, he couldn't stand next to him. So what did he say? He said, I want you to do circumcision, and then I can give you grain. And then I can give you food. I can help you. That's what Yosef HaTzadik asked the Egyptian to circumcise themselves. That's the third idea. So we see from here three different ideas why Yosef HaTzadik asked the Egyptian to circumcise. Let's move now to chapter 42. Now we move into chapter 42. In verse 6, the Torah tells us something extraordinary. The Torah tells us, it says like this, ויוסף הוא השליט על הארץ, הוא המשביר לכל העם הארץ, ויבואו אחי יוסף וישתחוו לו אפיים ארצה. Here the Torah tells us that Yosef is the ruler. That's one. Then it says, הוא המשביר לכל העם. What it mean, המשביר לכל העם? He's the one that give or sold the grain. He's the one that given the grain. And we have to understand, many of the Mefarshim ask, wait, we don't understand. Yosef was the vice command to the king. That means vice to the king of the greater empire of the world, Egypt. Egypt was the Mitropolitan, Hazal said. What it means, Mitropolitan? The greatest nation was the Egyptian in that time. And here come the vice of the king of Egypt, and he decides that he's not only going to be the ruler, he's going to be the one who sold the grain. He's the one that's going to give the grain. He's in charge about the grain. He's in charge about the food. And the Mefarshim say, Yosef, couldn't you find you another person that he can be the managing director to help you to give the grain? Why did you yourself have to do it? I mean, after all, Yosef was busy. You have a lot of things to do. You have nothing else to do to sell grain to the nation or to give grain to the nation. What's happening here? That's a question that many of the Mefarshim ask. I saw a commentary, a beautiful commentary of Rabbi Mordechai Kohen. Rabbi Mordechai Kohen, born in the 16th century, and he wrote the book Siftei Kohen. Okay? Some say that he born in Spain and he was amongst those Jews that have to go to exile from Spain, that been expelled from Spain. Okay? He was one of the students also of Ari HaKadosh, Rabbi Yitzhak Luri Ashkenazi, because he lived in Tzfat. From Spain, he fled to Tzfat. And he bring two different ideas. The one idea that he bring, Yosef HaTzadik knew that Egypt, not only that have involved with immorality, even there is a lot of corruption there. And Yosef HaTzadik didn't want injustice to happen in the great empire of Egypt, while he is still the vice there. So what did he done? He didn't want to have injustice. He decided to do it himself because he couldn't trust any other person to do it except himself. Because whoever he's going to appoint, he knew that will be corruption. So he come to teach us something very important. The major key for everything in life have to be what? Number one, to stop corruption. The second idea that he bring, that he tell us like this, that the main reason that Yosef done it himself, it's to teach us how important is it when a person have compassion and mercy to other people. That means Yosef HaTzadik come to show us example, number one, for compassion and mercy that the person should have, and number two, how to make sure not to make injustice. So that's what it said, Yosef HaMashbir. Now we can understand why Yosef decide that he will be the one that he will sell the grain. He's the one that's going to distribute the food in Egypt. In chapter 43, I'm skipping now, in verse 34. In verse 33, I'm going to speak. No, verse 34, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yes, verse 34. Vayisa mas'at me'et panav alehem, ותרב מסעת בנימין מסעת כולם 5 ידות וישתו וישכרו עמו. Here the Torah tell us that Yosef HaTzadik, when he given present to the brothers, a matter of fact, he given more to Binyamin. And then the Torah tell us that they sat and they drank, and Rashi HaKadosh says something extraordinary. In his commentary, he say, Miyom shemecharu, from the day that they sold Yosef, that means the brothers, lo shatu yain ve'oto hayom shatu. That means from the day that the brothers sold Yosef HaTzadik until the day that Yosef revealed to them, the brothers took on themselves not to drink wine. But the day that Yosef revealed himself to them, they decide to drink wine. And we have to understand why. What's happening here? Why for so many years you don't drink wine, and suddenly you drink wine? So on a pshat of the dvarim, you can say like this. Now that they found the brother is alive, it's a reason for to do l'chaim. Okay, but maybe we can understand on pshat of the dvarim. But there is something more deep here. There is something more involved here. I saw a commentary of Rabbi Noach ben Shmuel Mikrakov. Rabbi Noach ben Shmuel Mikrakov given a beautiful, a beautiful commentary. And he explained why suddenly the brothers, the tribes, the head of the tribe, decide to drink wine with Yosef. What's caused them suddenly, or made them suddenly, to drink wine? So he explained like this. When they saw that Binyamin got more than them, and there was not jealous, like there was jealous when Yosef received the striped garment. Now they're not jealous. Although that Yosef given the little brother, more than them, and now he still didn't reveal himself, and he didn't tell them nothing. Sorry, now he revealed himself to him. They knew that they're brothers. And as a brother, he given one of the brothers more, Binyamin, his little brother, more than any one of them. And none of them was jealous. They realized that they're rectifying the sale that they sold Yosef HaTzadik. If they didn't know that Yosef know them, they say, okay, that's ruler love Binyamin, given him more. But now that he revealed himself, that they know that he's the brother, Nachon, that he's a ruler. But as a ruler, he given the little brother more than every one of them. And they're not jealous? That make them now understand that they rectified the sin of selling Yosef. Say Rabbi Noach ben Shmuel. That means that by that they're not jealous, because the jealousy, that's what caused them to sell Yosef. Now they're not jealous, that's it. They done rectifying to their sin. And that's what was the explanation, Rabbi Noach ben Shmuel. That's what it say here. Vatarev mas'at Binyamin mas'at kulam. That means that now they realize that there is no more jealousy. And Be'ezrat Hashem, that we should all adopt that character trait, that we should not be jealous, because Hazal tell us, hakin'ah, first of all, hakin'ah. What it means, kin'ah? Jealousy. Ve'asin'ah, the hatred. Hakin'ah ve'asin'ah, that means what causes a person a lot of headache? When he's jealous and he hates. And say here, Rabbi Noach ben Shmuel, you learn that the brothers now rectified this sin. That means that they're going to a higher madrega, that they're not jealous. And Be'ezrat Hashem, that we should all learn from it. And we should have musar, not to be jealous of other people, not to be jealous when we see that someone getting more, someone doing better. Be'ezrat Hashem, only good news. So Be'ezrat Hashem, I would like to bless all of us. Remember Zot Hanukkah, that's the last day of Hanukkah, that we should all, Be'ezrat Hashem, take those days tonight and tomorrow, daven from the bottom of your heart to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to make sure that what you exactly need. One of the things that we should ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rabotai, I'm not here to Chas Shalom to give musar. One of them is not to be jealous, not to hate people, to love people. And all the mystical rabbi explained that the Geulah can come, the redemption can come when we love one each other, when we respect one each other. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we should learn from that message of the brothers that explain, Rabbi Noach ben Shmuel, that we should be not jealous one of each other. We should be happy when we see that it's good for other people. And if they have more than us, to be happy with what they have. And that's what can bring, please God, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will see that we love each other. We can live in unity and peace with each other. And then he will send us Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily in our day, and we'll see the rebuilding of the third Bet HaMikdash. Amen, Ken Yeh Ratzon. I would like to take the opportunity to wish all of you Shabbat Shalom, to wish you still Hag Urim Sameach. That means Hanukkah Sameach to all of you. Urim is light, that you should have a lot of light, that all the people that should have a lot of light, Be'ezrat Hashem, that only light, it means happy, and Be'ezrat Hashem, that all the Jewish people will be happy when we see Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily in our day. Amen. Ken Yeh Ratzon. If anyone would like to ask a question, I will try and answer if I can.
Rav, Stephen.
Stephen, how are you?
How are you yourself? Well, yourself, Rav.
Baruch Hashem. Sorry, I'm just drinking some.
No, you do that. You be talking a long time, Rav. Talking a long time.
Yes.
Rav, it's an interesting thing that you this whole question of the Saramashkim, the butler and the baker.
Yes.
As to, in terms of what you were saying, when it came to the fly in the wine, and as you said, the interpretation that he didn't have a choice. His inclination overcame him. Well, the fly was by accident. It was not. The two are actually interrelated. It was actually. He had no choice. But the baker, he had a choice, and therefore the bread was. And what is the pot? The pot that there's, as we know, there's a tradition. And when we talk about the bread, it's a person's pot is a person's wife. It could also be interpreted as Pharaoh's own people, his own family, and the baker was taking, as it were, from the bread illegally from the bread of Pharaoh, and that's why he had to be hung.
Okay, if you say that, that's all fine.
That's my only interpretation.
No, that's fine. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but in that case, so how come if the minister of drink, Sarah Mashkin, wasn't wrong, so why did he put him in jail? If it was a fly, why you didn't remove the fly? Why you didn't remove the fly?
It was an oversight. Well, I'd say it was an oversight. He didn't, he always presents it to the king, but he's done it so often, it's become so regular. It didn't even occur to him that they would have it. That a fly would have actually gone in the things. As I say, the two being interrelated. That the Sarah Mashkin, it was total oversight, and that relates to his relationship with Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter he had no choice. It was like his inclination, and when you go against, you don't go against Pharaoh's daughter, otherwise you're going to get killed anyway. And his inclination had to overcome him. Whereas the baker, he wanted to, as you say, he wanted to seduce her and maybe marry the daughter, and maybe.
Not that he wanted, he did.
He did. I was saying he did. And that's where the difference is, and that's why the king, and that's why the ravens took the bread.
Yes, but Hazal explained that Mashkin was very aware. Sarah Mashkin was very aware of what's happening. He tried to avoid it, but he couldn't control his Yetzer Hara. Sarah Ofim wanted it. He was the one that wanted it. You understand?
Yeah, that's it.
So the difference is that the fly, that wasn't his fault, but he should check. He should make sure that there is no fly inside the drink. That's the same like with the daughter. But Sarah Ofim that he been found with a stone inside the pot, inside the bread, that was that's because he seduced her.
Yeah.
It's not that it happened by mistake. He was negligent that he didn't serve the bread properly, the flour properly. That he seduced. You follow?
Yeah. He should have known better. He should have known better. You can't say he should have known better than he should have known better.
Yeah, he should know better, exactly, if you put it this way. Yes, you should go on. Yes. Any other question, Rabotai, that you want to try to answer?
I just ask something quickly, Anthony.
Anthony, how are you?
Right, how are you?
Baruch Hashem.
It says here, so Pharaoh sent and summoned Joseph, and they rushed him from the dungeon. He shaved and changed his clothes, and he came to Pharaoh. Can you explain that pasuk?
Okay, what happened here? As I'll explain, I explained it in previous year, but for you, Anthony, everything. So Hazal explained it to Rashi HaKadosh bring that when they took Yosef from the dungeon, from the jail, who done it? Sarah Mashkim. Sarah Mashkim, Hazal say, he took him out of the dungeon, he shaved him, he actually washed him, he given him a haircut, and he brought him in the front of Pharaoh. And it was on Rosh Hashanah, Hazal say, in the Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah. In page, I think page 3, folio 1 or folio 2. Look at it, I don't remember, now it's just coming. Or Yud Gimel even, Yud Gimel. Anyway, what's happened there? Yosef HaTzadik, when Pharaoh heard that he's someone that there is a good chance that can interpret his dream, he immediately ordered the minister of dream, that's Mirod, to go and bring who? Yosef HaTzadik, take him out of the jungle. And take him out of the jail, you're going to make sure that he's standing in the front of you, in the front of me. You can't bring a guy that unshaved, and have a haircut, grown haircut, and smelly. You're going to give him a shower. You make sure that he's standing in the front of the king, clean and decent and groomed. So what's happened? It was on Rosh Hashanah. Hazal in the Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah asked a question. Wait, Yosef HaTzadik, the righteous Yosef, how can you do it on Rosh Hashanah? How can you allow it? Postponed it another day, another 2 days. No. Hazal say Mishum Malchut, in honor of the kingdom, you're allowed to do that. That means a person that's been released from the jail, allowed to do it in honor of. Now you understand?
Yes, I think, yes, thanks very much.
Pleasure. Any other question, Rabotai?
Yeah. Yes, Rav, Stephen again. Rav, Stephen again. Yes. The other question I have, if the brothers realized that they had sinned and they repented for their sin, we have also a tradition that the 10 martyrs died because of the sin of the brothers who sold Joseph into slavery.
Nachon.
How can it be that if there was repentance?
Exactly, very good question. That question I have myself today. You know, when I was writing the show, when I was talking about the show, I was thinking about how can it be that many years later, close to 2,000 years later, okay, or maybe a little bit less than 2,000, the 10 immortal have to be punished. The 10 mortal people have to be hanged or have to be chopped their head. And we know what they done to Rabbi Akiva. Sarku besaro b'masrekot shel barzel. That means they brushed his skin, his flesh. Still brush. That means that he was bleeding. And when he died, he said, Shema Israel. So first of all, we have to understand what's happened. Until today, we're suffering for Mechirat Yosef. Hazal say. That's that they done atonement. It doesn't mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have to punish. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can accept your atonement, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to do tshuva. Many years later come those 10 great tzaddikim that they took on himself to be punished, that in merit of that they done kapara to the Jewish people.
Wow.
Otherwise, many more people will die in their situation. Now, I want to tell you something. We are now have this problem with COVID-19, close to a year. In January, actually In January, people found out in COVID-19. Look how many great rabbis died during that. And do hashbon nefesh. Those great rabbis that die, you know what they die? To do kapara that not many people will die from the Jewish people.
Wow.
Stephen, think about it. Because has v'shalom, you heard what's happened here with this story in what do you call it, in a rage in
yeah.
How many people, how many Jews was there?
Yeah.
How many been infected?
Yeah.
How many people been infected?
I think so many.
Close to 1,000. They talking about
that started with the second wave. That started with the second wave of COVID.
Yeah, but I want to ask, how many of them die?
I don't know.
I don't think any, but they very someone in serious.
That's exactly the point. None of them.
But they're in serious, someone in serious condition.
Because Hazal tell us that if there is tzaddikim, when the tzaddik die, he's doing a tournament for the generation. Now you understand what's happened in this city, what's happened in the world. We don't see the word bemikre. Take the letters, change them, and bemikre, rak me'Hashem. Rak me'Hashem. Bemikre, rak me'Hashem. Everything is from Hashem. There is nothing coincidence. To us, it looks like coincidence because we don't understand, but everything is from Hashem.
Mm-hmm.
And we are Jewish people. We are people that believe. Akadosh Baruch Hu, open your eyes. See what else I'm doing for you. What else you want? You know how many people going on holiday? Yeah, many people laughing about South Africa, third world country. Yeah. You want to say? Look what Akadosh Baruch Hu brought in the hand of our president to close the beaches. He tried. It's all from Hashem. Not for nothing. Listen to that. Not for nothing, say the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. When Kopol Bachar, I have the video in '94, he asked him, what's going to happen to the South African Jewry? He said to him, the Jewish people, it will be good until the Mashiach comes. And after Mashiach comes, it will be even better. Now we can understand the long sight of the tzaddikim. We don't understand. We have one great thing here in South Africa, that there is no too much sinat hinam. We all live in peace and harmony. Some people make mistake, different judgment, but in general, the South African Jewish, whatever you want to call them, whatever you want to describe them, it's a very, very special people, very special people, very warm. You know, when my dad came here, every time that he came here, and he'd been quite a bit in Europe, he'd been quite a bit overseas, he said to me, I never saw such a warm Jewish community.
Wow.
I never saw such a warm community. And I tell you, I have a charity fund for 25 years and 25, even more. Yeah. I remember when I started it, I gone to Rabbi Tenza and I said to him, Rabbi Tenza, I would like you to give me every time letters that I can give to the donors. He said, with pleasure. And for many years, Rabbi Tenza knew about that charity for many, many years. And that's in that charity, we used to give to people, because the people that come to me, it's not the people that will go to the Hev or to Yad Aaron. They're not going to go. And some of them working. And a matter of fact, some of those people today that we helped them in the past, today they're helping me back because they done well. When they need it, we help them. They have too much respect. Anyway, I go into Rabbi Tenz and I explained to him, and sometimes he used to give me name of people in our shul, other people, it's not the point. And when I spoke to because I have a committee, because I'm waiting to get now my 18A, I got the social number. He explained to me something extraordinary. Wherever you can help, and whenever you need me, I'll be there.
Sure.
And every time that I say, Rabbi Tenz, I need a thank you letter, not even once was a doubt, he wrote. And we appoint him as one of the honorary. And now I'm speaking still to the treasurer and to the auditor, how to still keep him there. So what I'm trying to tell you, Stephen, there's nothing b'mikre, nothing happened just like this. We just have to do as best that we can. And Chazal tell us, מה יעשה האדם וינצל מחבלו של משיח? Our sages asked that question. We are now in the end of days. What should we do? מה יעשה האדם וינצל מחבלו של משיח? יעסוק בתורה, I'll tell us, learn Torah וגמילות חסדים. Do kindness. And that's the secret. If we want to get rid of that, COVID-19, don't worry what other people say. You do the best, what you can do, and not to judge others. We have to do whatever we can do. Number one, Hesed, and to keep studying Torah. That's all what we can say. And that's what the world is standing on the Torah. You follow?
Yeah. Rav, can I say something?
Yes, there's something else that...
Okay, so, you mentioned about South Africa and the community, and, we take so many things for granted. The receptionist that works with us, she just came back from Antwerp, from Belgium, and her sister was, had a chasana. And what happened is that the police in Antwerp actually came to break up the chasana. And they had to change it, and it was very unpleasant. And then somebody told me that there's a video, and you can all see it, it went viral, about Gruzim. Gruzim have come to Antwerp from Georgia. They trading, like they've taken over in the main street by the railway. When you go into the Jewish quarter, there's a lot of these jewelry shops, and they Jews from Georgia and places like that. So one of the kids got engaged. So they were having a l'chaim. People came into the store to drink a l'chaim. The police came. They pulled out. They circled the shop with guns and the police there, and they pulled out, like the owner of the shop. They put him in front of everybody on the sidewalk, on the pavement. They treated him so badly, as if he's like a terrorist or a murderer or a criminal. It's unbelievable. And all they were having was a l'chaim in his shop. And it just was in the news today that the European Parliament has outlawed shchita. So in Belgium, there's not going to be shchita, and they say that this is the precursor that there might not be kosher meat in Europe. It's unbelievable. So, one takes it so for granted. And in South Africa, you're right, I never ever experienced anti-Semitism. You walk with your kippah proudly. So there are many things that we should never take for granted.
I tell you 100% right. I want to tell you a story. I needed to go to the Oriental Plaza. I needed to get something. I couldn't get it. And a friend of mine said to me, listen, you have it you can get it in Oriental Plaza. Oriental Plaza doesn't really like us, the Muslim there. And one with my friend. And we gone to the Oriental Plaza. And I said to my friend, I'm not going to wear a cap. No. I'm going to walk with my yami, and I'm going to walk there. I'm a proud Jew. Besides being a rabbi, rabbi is not considered now. I'm a proud Jew. And I tell you, I walked there. I didn't felt anything. Look, I was very aware, very worried. When I say worried, I didn't like walk flying like nothing can happen. And I tell you one thing, not one word being said, Baruch Hashem, thanks God. Not that I trust our cousin, but what I'm trying to tell you, that we have to understand that there's a big difference between our cousin to our uncles. Our uncles is Esav. Our cousin, that's Ishmael. They have more respect to us if we respect our religion.
So true. Rab, you know what?
The Intifada started in 1982. There's a book that's called the Intifada. Why the Intifada started? Because one terrorist was sitting on Pesach and he saw a Jewish person that worked on a jail eating bread on Pesach. And he said to him, "Isn't Pesach for you?" He said, "Yes, so what?" He said, "How can you eat bread on Pesach?" He said, "That's too old." He said that's what given him the energy, because he was ready to leave terrorism. And he said when he heard that, and he said, if those people have no respect for the past and have no respect for the future, they not deserve. When you walk as a proud Jew and you don't get involved with them, they will respect you. Then leave them alone. If you show that you're Jewish and you respect yourself and you behave with the Torah manner, you will be light to them. There's a blessing, there's a guarantee. And Be'ezrat Hashem, I hope that the law in Belgium would change. Dr. Les, I really hope, because in Germany they tried to do it. They tried many times in Switzerland. But you know, we're dealing with a different people. And you see how cruel they are. They have no neshama. And that's why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said בזוהר, הם בני אדם, אתם נקראים בני אדם, והם לא בני אדם. So, Lechaim, no, but they look at you like, what did you done? Like you killed someone. Because you have Lechaim. Because you have a Hatuna. You know how many people here have Hatuna? And I don't want to talk Lashon Hara. And the bride say that no one must come with the mosque.
Sure.
I don't agree with that. But what I'm trying to say, we have to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that there is tefillah, there is a prayer that we have to daven for the president, for the prime minister of every country. And we have to ask ourselves, if we wasn't such good, if it wasn't enough Torah in this town, what else can be? And if it was more Torah, it will be free of COVID-19.
Wow, you're so right.
The Torah, the Zohar say, Magna u'matzla, the power of the Torah. What it means, Magna? It's like a shield. Matzla, it will save you. Not only it will protect you, it will save you. That's our Torah. How much we have to put our effort instead of looking at all the nitty-gritty and all the nonsense, excuse my language. Let's focus, really, let's focus on a good thing that we can do. And maybe that will be the Mashiach. Maybe that will set the end to all our sorrows. Be'ezrat Hashem.
One other thing. Rav, one other thing.
Yes.
Rav, one other thing was that Rabbi Dov was told by Rabbi Sternberg that during this whole time of COVID, we should actually say Avinu Malkeinu every day.
Sure. You know, by the way, Avinu Malkeinu, you know where they landed from Rabbi Akiva? In a time of Dever Ba'ir. I done a show about it. You remember, Gemara Masechet Baba Kama. Dever Ba'ir Kanes. We explained at the beginning of the pandemic, you remember? No, Be'ezrat Hashem, that we should all be healthy. We look after ourselves. We have to thank Hakadosh Baruch Hu for everything that we have. Study more Torah, love more each other, and leave all the nonsense aside. And then we'll see Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily in our day. Amen. Ken Yeh Ratzon. That's very important. Rabotai, Shabbat Shalom. Hag Urim Sameach. Keep safe. Keep well, and Be'ezrat Hashem will meet on Sunday. I will send a message. Have a good night.
Good night, all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rab.
All the
Thanks,
best.
Rob.
Thank you guys.
Bye. Bye.